Welcome to cherry blossom season. Today we are painting, or I am painting, a simple and soft cherry blossom branch using just three colors. It's Prussian blue, quinacridone red, and dragon's blood, plus a little white. This is a really relaxing project. It is perfect for beginners or anyone who wants a peaceful painting session. I'll walk you through every step from the background wash to the blossoms and branches, and I'll share my thoughts as I paint. So step one in this painting is starting with the background. So we're going to wake up the paper with a light wash of clean water, and I'll be using Prussian blue. It's a strong color, so I'm diluting it quite a bit with water, and I want this background to feel very airy and soft, like a spring sky behind the blossoms. As I brush the color across the page, I'm keeping my strokes loose and letting the water do most of the blending. Don't worry about perfection here. A little variation in tone, that means the light and darkness of the blue actually makes the final painting feel a bit more natural. So as I'm painting the background, I am also doing some negative painting, and I'm painting around the petals of the blossoms and the buds and the branches. So I do have a light sketch on my watercolor paper of my composition of the cherry blossom branch. So as you notice, I am leaving a lot of white space. Those spaces are where my blossoms and buds and my branches are going to be. So step two of this painting is starting with our first wash of the petals. So once the background is dry, we can start adding the blossoms. I'm mixing quinacridone red with plenty of water to make a very soft pink. And what I'm doing with each petal and bud is wetting down the sections first and then dropping the color in. I like to begin with the blossoms to the left of my composition, and so I'm painting left to right. So the blossoms and the buds on the left, I'm going to start there and move towards my right. And as I go, I'm thinking of each petal as a simple teardrop shape. Keep your brush strokes light and let the edges dry as soft as possible. Cherry blossoms are delicate, so don't overthink the shapes. So what I'm doing for the second layer of the petals is mixing that pastel pink using Q red and white and some water. So we're doing the second layer. We're adding pastel pinks to each of these petals and some of the buds. As I'm doing that, I'm also dropping in some darker red color into the centers of the open flowers and then at the base of the bud. Now it's time to add some darker values into the center of these flowers over the second layer. So I'm just adding some darker red with some of that dragon's blood into the center of each flower and also at the base of each bud. So that's a little bit of detail we will start adding to our flowers and our buds. And next up, we will be painting the branches, and the next step will be the final details on the painting. Now, as you notice, as I am dropping little dots of concentrated color in the center of the petals, I am using a paper towel and blotting out a bit of that concentrated color. So that's an option. If you've gotten your color a little bit dark, you can blot it out with a paper towel. I'm not blotting all of it out, just lightening up that concentration of color. Now it's time to start mixing the branch color. Of course, make sure that your petals are dry before you lay down the branch color. For the branches, I'm mixing dragon's blood with a touch of Prussian blue. These two together make a beautiful, rich brown. Now, if you want a cooler brown, add a little more blue. And for a warmer brown, add more dragon's blood. You can also test the color on a scrap piece of paper first to make sure it's the brown color that you like. Now, we are going to be painting these branches in 2 layers. First layer is going to be a very thin wash of that brown. So a light wash of that brown all along the branches, connecting each of the blossoms together. The second layer, we will add darker values of that brown, of that mixture, to sections of the branch. And then after that, we'll add the final details. So now we're on to the final details. Now I'm deepening a few shadows inside the blossoms and also along the base of the buds. I'm using a slightly stronger mixture of Q Red and also some brown on my palette and giving the centers more depth by just dampening a little bit and dropping in color. I'm also creating some thin pink lines running along each petal and each bud. Inside the petals, I am using a dark color and adding some little dashes along those light pink lines to make them look like stamens. I'm adding also a few darker touches to the branches to give them dimension as well. So these little details make the whole painting come alive. Now with the branches, you want to pay attention to where the petals meet the branch, and you'll want to add some dark brown underneath each petal that's touching the branch. And that will make the petals pop a little bit more. In the end, when everything dries, we will be splattering some paint onto the paper and making some falling petals, like petals are falling from the sky. So go ahead and add a few of those details, and I'll meet you back here and I'll show you how to splatter some paint and make some falling petals. It's splatter time. So now that your painting is all dry, let's go ahead and load up a paintbrush with some Q red with a lot of water and that Q red. Take another paintbrush and tap that loaded brush over your paper and you will get splatter marks. Then what I want you to do is take some clean water and rub out some of those spots, some of those splatters. Just rub it out slightly until it forms a little shape, like a petal shape. And that will look like petals are falling from your cherry blossom tree. And here's our finished cherry blossom branch. Soft, simple, and so peaceful. I hope you enjoyed painting with me today. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I look forward to doing more of these.